Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to After Maghrib, your favorite Shia podcast. As you know, last week we had a fascinating and a very interesting discussion on the event of Ghadir. And these are the days where we commemorate and we celebrate the Ahlulbayt alayhim as-salam. And we remember the Thaqalain, the Quran and the Ahlulbayt, which ultimately the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left behind to us to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and of course to follow in his footsteps. So these are the days, brothers and sisters, where we connect with the Ahlul Bayt and the Holy Quran. We are entering now the days of Muharram. And I want to begin this holy and blessed season with a message of condolence, firstly to the Imam of our time, Imam al-Hujjah Ajjallahu Ta'ala Fajr al-Sharif. And of course, secondly, of course, brothers and sisters, to yourselves, to the whole Ummah. These are the days where mourning takes precedent in our lives. We're gathering together as a congregation in our mourning, and our commemoration for the Holy Imam alayhi salam is so important to us, so critical to our identity and our faith. So today, inshallah, we want to begin this blessed season as we approach and enter it with an understanding as to why we mourn in the first place. What about Muharram and what about Imam Hussain alayhi salam's message, his vision, his journey, his legacy is so important to us. Not just when we look at the historical perspective, but also from an aqaidi perspective, a belief system for us as Muslims, and why we feel it is compulsory on us to mourn the death of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So as always, it is not a podcast without my other half, and that is none other than Sayyid Ali Radhawi. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, Ahmed. It's a pleasure to be beside you week after week. And I think now it's been, close to very soon 100 episodes. And as you mentioned, we are approaching the sorrowful month of Muharram. And you know, I'm just now speaking about it, I can just imagine the atmosphere and the emotion that millions and millions of Shia will experience in the next few days. And it just, you know, gives me the vibe that Muharram is here. That means the black needs to go up. Muharram is here. That means, you know, the season of aza, the season of masa'ib, the season of tears, the season of emotion, as well as, you know, we always remember as we approach the month of Muharram, the blessed words of Rasul Allah when he speaks about his beloved grandson, Imam Hussain, Imam Abu Abdullah, where he says, Husainin minni wa ana min Hussain. What does that mean? That means if we're crying and we're mourning and we're lamenting Imam al-Hussain, ultimately we are doing this with Rasul Allah, and we remember the tears that were shed between Rasul Allah and Lady Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam when he informs her of what will happen to her beloved son Imam al-Hussain on the day of Ashura, where she tells him, you know, Abata ya Rasul Allah, will this happen during my lifetime, our lifetime? And he tells her, no, this will happen during when I am gone, when you're gone, when Imam Ali is gone, when Al-Hasan and Mushtaba is gone, and Hussein will be gharib, he will be alone. And just think about that. Imam al-Hussain, the grandson of Rasulullah, is gharib on the plains of Karbala. But then he consoles his daughter and he tells her, don't worry. Because she tells him, if we're not here, who's going to mourn for him? Who's going to cry for him? Who's going to remember him? And he tells her, you know, Fatima, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create Shia that will mourn for him, Shia that will cry for him, and Shia that will remember and echo the words of Imam al-Hussain and the tragedy of Karbala in every single generation. And think about it, we are part of that hadith. Like when we hear things like that and then we go to a majlis, or you know, we think about the tragedy of Karbala and it gives us tears, or we think about certain moments that took place on the plains of Karbala, and that, what does that do? That plays with our heart. And you know that heartstring, to know that Ahabba Allah man ahabba Husayna, that love, bro, that bond, that feeling, that attachment that you have with Imam al-Hussain, wallah, it gives me great pleasure to say, I know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can love me. Ahabba Allah man ahabba Husayna. Who doesn't want to be loved by God?
100%.
And this is the month, inshallah, where we remember Imam al-Hussain, and we are a few days away. How do you feel?
I feel the same way. I feel like it's really hitting hard. Like you said, when you see the sawad, the black cloths go up on the walls, and the environment around you changes. You take out your black clothes, you start looking for the majalis, planning your day around and the week around the majalis. And for many of us, alhamdulillah, we even start preparing and hosting majalis in our homes, in our community centers. It's an honor, like you said, to be a part of that tradition of of majalis, and that is incumbent upon us. And like I said earlier, I believe this it's more than just a theological thing or historical thing. It's an aqaidi thing in the sense that it is a core belief for us in our belief systems. When we talk about adala, when we talk about imama, even of course you could discuss, the nabuwwah of Rasul Allah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything ties in. Everything ties in. Every event that happened in the lives of the A'imma alayhi salam was so pivotal in paving the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What God had planned ultimately happened. Nothing happens without God's will. So a lot of people ask at this juncture, just before the 10 nights begin, why did Imam Hussein go to Karbala? Why did he not just give bay'ah to Yazid la'natullah alayh? What was it about Imam Hussein which made him stand up? What was it? Was he a different type of man to the other imams? Was he a different type of imam or a leader? I think the imams are very consistent because, like we said, for them, the belief system is such. It's not a personality thing or an opinion-based thing. The belief system was consistent. And all of the imams in our third imam's position would have done the same thing, and that is to stand up against Yazid la'natullah alayh. There's a lot of things we can talk about. The last thing I want to say before I hand back to you is, a lot of the time we hear in the Sunni community differing views about the death of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, his beloved family and companions. And we have the classical and traditional scholars, for example, As-Suyuti, for example, who says you can do la'an on Yazid, for example, for being the killer of Imam Hussain. La'an on Yazid. Then you have, for example, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, who said you can do it, but it's not advised, it's precautionary not to do it, better not to do it, but he was the killer of Imam Hussain. Then you have, for example, other scholars who not only say you can't do la'an, but go to the extent, even contemporary scholars who say you should praise Yazid or not blame Yazid. Zakir Naik from India, he says Yazid radiyallahu an, which I can't get my head around. Yasir Qadi, of course, from the USA, who's a well-revered scholar within the Sunni world, he says Yazid was not responsible for the death of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and that it should be blamed upon the ones who themselves carried out the act of killing of the Holy Imam. Now, I've got a few points on this, but I want to get your thoughts and what you think on this.
I'm glad you mentioned those points because I think they're going to be very relevant in the discussion that we're going to have here, Ahmed. And I just want to go back a little because you mentioned just before you raised the examples of those who revere Yazid or those who say, radiyallahu an, and I think the mercy of Allah is far away from a man like Yazid. And to know why Imam Hussein went to Karbala, I think just very briefly here before I speak about Yazid, because I think I want to dedicate a few minutes here, is that Imam Hussein, had a God-given mission, if I can say. And this was to revive and restore the pristine teachings, the sunnah of his grandfather Muhammad, Rasul Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So that was his mission and that was his journey and that's what he was heading towards. The problem is Yazid came in his way where he wanted the bay'ah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Now, why wouldn't Imam Hussain give bay'ah to a man like Yazid? Very famously, he says a few lines, and I think before we go there, let's just talk about Yazid for a little. Yazid is not your normal human being. He's not your normal caliph. He's not your normal leader. He's not even, I think, an average Muslim, if one can say. Of course. He's far away from it.
He's kafir.
If I can say, what virtues does he have? He's got 3. Shaitan, evil, corruption. There's nothing else when it comes to Yazid ibn Muawiya, where Imam Hussain will later on go on to say, Mithli la yubayi'u mithlak, that a man like me will never give bay'ah, will never give allegiance to a man like you. Like, when you hear that as a Muslim, like you hear one side saying Yazid radiyallahu an, and then you hear the other side Hussein, I hate to use it, radiyallahu an, because it's alayhi salam. You got to understand something.
Yeah.
I think this is where I want to take the conversation, I think, throughout today's discussion. But what happens when the grandson of Rasul Allah says, I'm not going to give bay'ah to the one who claims to be representing Rasul Allah?
Yeah.
I think there's a number of things that happen here. You can look at it from the lens of haqq and batil, that Imam Hussein does not want to mix truth with falsehood. Imam Hussein doesn't want to mix the purification of the Ahlulbayt with the impurities of Yazid, la'natullahi alayh. There are so much ways that one can take this conversation. But when I say to you Yazid, or when I say to you Hussein, what is one thing that stands out? As a Muslim, I don't want you to talk as a Shia. If someone tells you Yazid radiyallahu an and Hussein radiyallahu an,
what do you mean one thing that stands out?
How can they both be radiyallahu an if they fought
it's
each
impossible. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. They repel one another, you know, and they are opposites to one another. You know, when the companion Minhal came to Imam Sajjad alayhi salam in Sham, and he says to you, what are your thoughts on Yazid? He asked him. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam referenced Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28, verse number 4, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Fir'aun. And the translation reads, Fir'aun has become high-handed in the land. He has divided its people into different groups. He used to persecute a group of them, slaughtering their sons and keeping their women alive. Indeed, he is one of the mischief makers. This is very important because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the comparison. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Fir'aun and Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, who is the son of revelation, the son of divinity in the sense of the divine revelation. Himself is making a parallel between Fir'aun as a mischief maker, as a persecutor, as an oppressor, as one who slaughters the young men and keeps women separately, between that and Yazid. And then for those today to say, no, but Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you never know, maybe he forgave, maybe his family forgave Yazid, maybe Yazid asked for tawbah, maybe asked for repentance. The one who pokes the head of Imam with a stick, will that person ever have softness in his heart to seek repentance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When Allah makes a verse about Fir'aun, calling him a mischief maker, the one who persecuted people, split people, the one who killed the babies and kept the women separately, and Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is comparing that man to Yazid la'natullah alayh, is there any doubt, is there any shak or hesitation in comparing them? Look at the parallels between these two individuals. The validity of Yazid's position, his khilafah in itself, is questioned because there was corruption on a number of levels. There was like a political corruption in the sense that it was hereditary succession. Yazid became khilafah through successorship of his father, through inheritance of khilafah through his father. That in itself invalidates his argument. He then consolidated power by persecuting individuals. He silenced them, he intimidated them, he coerced them into doing things. From a moral and an ethical perspective, we reject his khilafah. Okay, he publicly disregarded Islamic values, Islamic laws. He was known for his indulgence in alcohol, in gambling, and other kind of un-Islamic and unethical acts. He was harsh in his treatments to his opponents. He was known to assassinate people who spoke up or anyone who practiced dissent. He would exploit people. He would steal money. These were things that generally was anti-Islam. And everything that was Islam was embodied by Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. And at the time, the Hujjah on earth, the Imam on the earth, was Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And everything that Imam Hussein believed in, Yazid did the opposite of. And vice versa. We believe as Shia Muslims that Yazid was a kafir. We believe he was a kafir. We don't believe that his father, who unfortunately we reject as well, but we don't believe that him being the son of someone who others call Sahaba, you know, just because the father was someone who was in contact with Rasul Allah does not validate Yazid in his khilafah in itself.
And just this point of Yazid being a kafir, just like in case anyone is wondering, very famously, historically, it's narrated, you know, after the events of Karbala, in Sham, in his palace, he goes along to say the lines of, there was no wahi that came to Muhammad, and there was never any revelation that came down. It just goes to show you that he rejects La ilaha illallah, and he rejects Muhammad Rasulullah.
He said the Hashemites played with authority like a kingdom, and like a ruler, which tells me, as someone logically thinking about it, my rationale tells me that he's saying the Hashemis played with authority like a ruler with his kingdom. That means that you don't believe that this is a divine appointment by God, which therefore means you don't believe in Muhammad Rasulullah, which therefore means you don't believe in La ilaha illallah through rationale. So it's, you through your statement have negated your own belief.
Ahsant. And I think even back to the point of mithli la yabaya'u mithlak, a man like me will never give allegiance to a man like you. And I think another comparison will be very nice. I think this convo now we're talking about, that we don't revere him or his father, is just compare the two family trees.
Ahsan.
Look at Yazid. So first of all, we have Abu Sufyan plus Hind plus Muawiya equals Yazid ibn Muawiya.
Wow.
So we have Hind, who ate the liver of Hamza.
Yeah.
We have Muawiya, who was an enemy to Imam Ali.
That's an understatement.
Go look at Safin.
Yeah.
And I think it goes way beyond Safin. And now you have Yazid ibn Muawiya, very clearly, who was against the family of Rasul Allah, killing the grandson of Rasul Allah. The point I want to make is that if we really want to compare radiyallahu an to Yazid and alayhi salam to Imam Hussain, I just spoke about this tree, now let's come to this tree.
Yeah.
Hussain, the beloved grandson of Rasul Allah, the brother of Imam al-Hasan al-Mushtaba, Karim Ahlulbayt. His mother, Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidati Nisa al-Alameen. His father, the commander of the faithful, Prince of believers, Amir al-Mu'mineen. His grandfather, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. How can a man like Hussein give bay'ah to a man like
So
Yazid?
let me ask you a question.
That's an answer there.
Let me ask you a question, okay? So a lot of people will agree thus far. They'll say, I understand why Yazid was despicable, deplorable. And then I understand why Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam was holy and purified. But why did Imam al-Hussein, A, have to go to Karbala? Why did he leave his Hajj? And B, why did he take those with him? Why did he allow himself to be sacrificed when he could continue to live on as the Imam and to guide the people and to lead the Ummah? Why did he give his life when he could have just said, for the greater good, I will give bay'ah? What are your thoughts?
And I know we've spoken about bay'ah quite a lot here. And you just...
Bay'ah is the core of it, bro.
It is, technically. It should be. Because it makes you understand why Imam Hussein embarked on his journey towards Karbala. Because the reason he ended up at Karbala was all because of this bay'ah issue.
Yeah.
Yazid sent his henchmen to go get bay'ah from Imam al-Hussein, and if he doesn't give bay'ah, then kill him and behead him. And he even went as far as to say, even if Imam al-Hussein is on the jidar of the Kaaba, he's in the sacred land of Mecca, he's in the sacred house of God, and he doesn't give bay'ah, bring his head to me. He went that far. And then when that news reached the son of Fatima, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he said, I have to leave Hajj. He left early. He didn't complete his full Hajj, did he?
No.
And he gave an example, and he said, if Yazid is willing to spill my blood here, when I can't even spill the blood of an insect in this holy land, I must leave Hajj, because he knows what's going to happen. Yazid's henchmen are going to come and they're going to try kill the grandson of Rasulullah. And he left Hajj, went on to go towards Kufa. Eventually, he got stopped on the way. He ended up in Karbala. And I think as we continue throughout the weeks in Muharram, we'll talk more about it.
And there's a million things we can talk about. And just talking, I mean, we could spend 8 episodes alone just talking about the story of Hazrat Muslim ibn Aqil and what happened in Kufa alone. And that in itself is...
You know what? We should dedicate an episode to this.
I think we should. I think we should, inshallah. Hopefully next week we'll try and make the niyyah if things permit.
Inshallah.
But there's important points to make. Firstly, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, to leave Hajj, which is compulsory on all Muslims, to stop his Hajj halfway and to head away from Hijaz, signifies to me that the stand he was taking was in his eyes more wajib. The order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was that this is more compulsory on you than completing your hajj. That in itself is something to be aware of. The second thing is that Imam Hussain alayhi salam could not give bay'ah to Yazid because he had to refuse to endorse a leader who openly violated Islamic teachings and practices. We're talking about a community of people who put heads on spears less than 50 years after the death of the mercy to mankind, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And in Imam Hussein's defense of justice, he was able to give himself, basically. And that was so important. He stood up against the injustice of Yazid's regime. And just from a logical perspective as well, how can anyone take Islam seriously? How can anyone take the Ahlulbayt alayhim Islam seriously if they themselves accept, reluctantly, albeit, but accept the bay'ah of Yazid? How? You won't take them seriously because you say one thing, but your actions tell me something else. If you give in to Yazid, your actions say something else. So Imam Hussain Islam, it's not that he had no choice but to give his life, but he willingly did it because he wanted to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he knew that this was for the greater good, for the bigger picture, that this will continue to revive the teachings of Rasul Allah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
And you know the point of, I think we focused a lot on bay'ah here. I think one more point to add to this is that why Imam Hussein will never give bay'ah to a man like Yazid. I think we read it all the time in Ziyarat Ashura.
Yeah.
لن تلبسك الجاهلية بأي أنجاسها. Like the impurities of the ignorant and barbaric people will never come to you, Hussein. It's never going to touch you. You're not going to shake hands with impurities. You're not going to shake hands with, people who are filled with hate, who are filled with rage, people who are filled with anger towards your mother, towards your father, towards your grandfather. What is all of this? Like, if we want to talk about Hussein and if we want to talk about Yazid, I think let's leave Hussein alone for a second. I think we all know his status. I think we all know how great he is. I think we all know his mission. But I don't think people have understood who Yazid is. Because Yazid, and I think it may be shocking for a lot of Muslims listening, Yazid used to lead Fajr prayers whilst being drunk.
Yeah.
He was intoxicated. I don't know, he'd swim in alcohol. Allahu A'lam what he used to do. But he used to lead prayers while he was drunk. And very famously, let's leave Shia books aside. Let's go to the Sunni world. Those who at times revere him, those who praise him, and those who say he held lots of virtues, lots of merits. Let's go to Ibn Kathir. Let's go to his book, Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. Okay? Yeah. He mentions a number of virtues about Yazid ibn Muawiya.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the virtues? The first merit. Yazid loves to consume alcohol. Yeah. That's merit one. Merit number two. Yazid loves to be in private gatherings with young boys. Yeah. You can imagine the rest. Merit number three. Yazid loved music. It went to as far as music was being played in the lands of Mecca and Medina. Point number four. Yazid. Should I carry on?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I don't want to be sarcastic, but this is the reality of his virtues.
Do you know what annoys me, Sayyid? I'll be real with you, yeah? You talk about Ibn Kathir, Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya.
Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee you, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when I looked into this before, there's no mention of the dishonor of Yazid because of him being the killer of Imam Hussein.
No, of course not.
They will list A to Z of all the sins that Yazid has done. He played with monkeys, he played chess, he listened to music, he drank alcohol, he liked young boys. But none of that is worse than being the killer of Imam Hussein in Islam.
By the way, they will even debate if he's a Muslim, but they'll still say Radhawi an. So, and their debate is not, by the way, whether he was a Muslim or a mu'min. It's whether he was a fasiq, a fajr, or a kafir. So they already know where it's headed. But the problem is, the moment they want to admit how Yazid came into power, what paved the way for Yazid to come into power, a lot of dominoes start to fall. Yeah. So they have to sort of create like an umbrella, sort of protection, an extra added layer of safety, a safety net. Yeah. Where don't look too much into Yazid, because if you do, you might start to look back at
crumbles. Everything crumbles. Everything crumbles. Honestly, how did Yazid come into power? Okay. How did his dad come into power? didn't his dad take power from Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam? What's the story there? How did Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam retrieve successorship from his holy father?
And how was Imam al-Hassan killed?
Yeah,
and by
absolutely.
who? Who ordered this killing?
And these things, Said, I'll just say, you know, this it's just frustrating. I know we're going to wrap up soon, but the whole concept, which drives me insane, you know, and even in some traditions that say, as I mentioned earlier, that Yazid sought Tawbah, you know, it does not make any sense. I cannot fathom how this makes sense, because we've said in previous episodes how he attacked the Kaaba, for example, in the latter years of his Khilafah. And obviously he only lived, I think, a couple of years after Karbala anyway, and he attacked the Kaaba in those years. It's like, for example, you know, if someone seeks Tawbah, they mean it from their heart, from the bottom of their soul.
Yeah.
Okay? And that means I make the niyyah to never do this thing again. Right? And I heard in a fantastic lecture that it's like, for example, if someone has an issue with a father, insults a father, and then 14 years on, for example, at the funeral of the father's son, at the son's funeral, he insults people and attacks people at the funeral, or attacks the funeral, for example. But they say, no, maybe they sought Tawbah. But if they sought Tawbah after the first insult, then how can the Tawbah be sincere or forgiven? It doesn't make sense. And in the same way, we say that Yazid was disingenuous. All of this, when he says, for example, in the Sunni books, it says that Yazid blames Ibn Ziyad. He says, look what Ibn Ziyad has brought upon me. Ibn Ziyad was in Kufa. Now, if we're making the argument that Yazid was in Sham and Karbala happened in Iraq, then Ibn Ziyad is in Kufa. He's not in Karbala either. So why is that a point to mention? And even more so, when Yazid says, look what Ibn Ziyad has brought upon me, some people, you can look at it from two perspectives. Either that means, oh, look what he's done. I can't believe this has happened. I'm very remorseful. Or on the flip side, Yazid is saying, what a nuisance this guy is. What inconvenience he's brought upon me, because now I have to deal with these people. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to deal with the reputation it's giving me. I stand by what I did, but I blame the ones who I appointed to carry out for making this inconvenience to me. Do you see what I mean? Like, it does not make sense, and it's sickening to the core. So I think it's so important that all Shia around the world, and including myself first and foremost, we familiarize ourselves with the reasoning for Imam Hussain alayhi salam's message in the first place. Why did Imam Hussain alayhi salam get to the point where he had to arrive at Karbala? Why was he there? Why did he know that he was embarking on this journey with his beloved family and his companions, knowing that they would all lose their lives? Why did he take it upon himself to do that? And what was his niyyah towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because without this complete holistic understanding of why Imam Hussain did what he did, we will never, ever understand Karbala, ever. We can do majalis until the day we die. We can name our son Qasim, Akbar, Asghar, all of these names until the day we die. For hundreds of years, our lineage are doing azar and majalis. But if we don't truly understand Imam al-Hussein's understanding of Tawheed and his full manifestation of Tawheed in his actions, then we will never understand Karbala. And if we don't understand Karbala, then we can't share his message to people around us. When we talk about Imam Hussain, we will end up being cliche. Imam Hussain stood for justice. He stood against tyranny. He stood up against oppression. Okay, bro, how? Tell me, please. What is it? Because first and foremost, Imam Hussain stood for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The commandment of Allah comes first. Secondly, comes his responsibility to the people, his public duty, his duty as the Imam, whatnot, so on and so forth. These are secondary. They are still wajib upon him as the Imam. But first and foremost, Imam was doing a godly act. He sacrificed himself because Allah commanded it. That was priority. We do a disservice to the Holy Imam when we make it purely about a good Samaritan self-sacrifice for the wider cause of justice. And bro, these things are pseudo-intellectual in their purest form of nature, because they're all true facts, but unless we understand the tawheed behind the Imam's actions. So I know I'm rambling a bit, but I really want to make that point clear to myself, because if I enter this holy month without a full understanding of why the Imam did what he did, then there's no point in me doing ziyarah, going to Arba'een, attending majalis, because I go, I mourn, I beat my chest, I cry, I shed tears, I take my children, I wear black, I tell my wife to wear black, I don't laugh and joke around, I don't waste time and crack jokes. And there's no point doing any of that if it has no bearing on my relationship with God. Do you see what I mean? Like, I truly believe that, because Karbala and Ashura, and it's there for a reason, you know. There's so much more to gain from Karbala than just the tears. The tears are our intercession, our salvation, you know, in the Akhirah. They will save us from the fire of hell. They will cool us, inshallah. But it's more than the tears. It has to be more than the tears, because we won't reach the pinnacles of faith that we want to reach without that understanding. That's just like my truest current opinion. You know, I really believe we need to get to that stage.
No, Wallah, you're very right, Ahmed. I endorse every second you spoke on that point, because it gave me flashbacks to our previous conversation we had last Muharram, where we were like, you know, there has to be more. Like it's not just, yes, the month of Muharram, don't get me wrong, is about mourning, it's about Aza, and we dedicate Aza and mourning throughout Muharram and Safar, right? But there is more to learn from Karbala, there is more to learn from Ashura, there is more to understand from Imam Hussain, not just his battle, but understand his biography, understand the teachings that he done, the works that he completed. And it's not just about him dying on the plains of Karbala, or being killed on the plains of Karbala, or his head being paraded from city to city. There is more, because it was a godly mission.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned a very beautiful word, which was the tawheed of Imam Hussein. I don't think anyone has ever looked at it from that lens. Perhaps it's a lens we should take here on the After Maghrib podcast, is what was the tawheed Imam Hussein was after?
Yeah.
What was he trying to re-establish? What was that connection he wanted to give to the Muslims and revive and awaken the Ummah of Muhammad back to believe in La ilaha illallah, back to believe in the justice of Allah, His adala. All of this, bro, this is something we need to ask ourselves.
Said, I think it's a good time for you to talk about the canvas behind us by dear brother Qari Zuhair Husseini, who put together this absolutely beautiful artwork. Tell us what it says.
The artwork, I saw it a few days ago, and I was just staring at it, and it's a beautiful piece of art, and it has the Quranic ayah, the verse, Ya ayyuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna arji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah. And it reminds me of a podcast we had with Nouri Sardar. He mentioned it quite a few times a few weeks back when we were discussing mental health. And now here the verse is right there, and it's something we should reflect on. And at the bottom it says, As-salamu ala rasil qati'. Peace be upon the head that was severed. The head of Imam Hussein was placed on top of a spear. This is no joke. Why? Why did it happen? Why did Allah allow it to happen? Like, there is so much, I think, not hidden meaning behind Ashura. It's just we're not chasing it. We're not bothered to go look for it. We're not bothered to go look for it. We just want to do latum, and alhamdulillah for latum, and inshallah this chest will crush in the beating and the lamenting that we do for Imam Hussein during his majalis. But there is more. Ahmed, wallah, there is more. I mentioned last year, there's so much points in my head, I may repeat from last year, where I was like, the connection we need to have with Muharram is the connection that we build during the months of Ramadan. If we're, standing, praying on time during the month of Ramadan, that's because we have understood what Allah wants from us. Muharram is here. Let's understand why Hussein died for us. What benefit is there to us from Karbala and from Ashura? So if it's prayers, for example, I'll say it again, Imam Hussein, it didn't stop him from praying during the battle. He stood firm. He established salah. And we read, أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة, during the most difficult time, the most difficult moment.
And Allah,
we take it so easy.
Allah rewarded him for that.
Of course.
There's this verse behind us from Surah Al-Fajr and our tafasir. In fact, even from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he mentions that this is the surah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because in the first couple of verses, I think in the surah, if I'm not mistaken, it talks about 10 nights. It talks about the concept of 10 nights. It's unknown in the wider Muslim world, but in our tafasir references 10 nights, which we believe are the 10 nights of Muharram, of course. And in this verse, from I think 27 to 30 or something like that, when it talks about nafs al-mutma'inna, the tranquil soul, the soul that is at rest,
The contented soul.
the contented soul. We believe that soul in our tafsir is in reference to Imam Hussein, that even amidst such trying and turbulent circumstances, Imam Hussein returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Rabbi khud hatta tarda.
Ahsant.
Lord, take all you want until you're pleased. Like,
Yeah.
Wallah, subhanallah.
So the tawheed is the primary thing we remember. Talking about, like you said, just the azar and all of these things are our mechanism, our vehicle to reach that point of tawheed. They have to be, and it can't be an end point. The majalis, the khidmah, the qima, all of these things,
They go hand in hand.
they are mechanisms for us to reach God.
Yes.
And that has to be key for us. Like we reach Imam al-Hussein, when we understand Imam al-Hussein holistically in his whole form and his whole vision, then we understand that everything he did was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hopefully,
وَمَنْ يَعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Those who revive the symbols of God, it's for the piety of the hearts. We very, in our school of thought, we connect the sha'a'ir of Imam Hussein, for example, to the sha'a'ir of Allah. They go hand in hand. And there's a point that I want to say. I think as Shia, I think we know we have to do more. But I think possibly there may be, for the first time, I think because we've discussed Yazid, we may have Muslims watching who are not Shia, thinking, what on earth are we talking about? Like, who is Imam Hussein? I just know him that he was a young kid with Rasul Allah. I don't know nothing more. I think there's a duty on you as a Muslim. Because as a Muslim, well, it's incumbent on you to go find the truth. I'm not going to come and tell you, Ali ma al-haq wal-haq ma Ali. I don't want to repeat these lines.
You can watch that last week.
Yeah, tune back last week, last year, the week before that, every week, inshallah. Al-haq wa Ali will stay with Ali. But there is an added responsibility on you that you need to go seek the truth, no matter where it takes you. Don't look for the people. So just because someone told you, you know what, let's revere Yazid, or let's revere Muawiya, and then that's the truth. No. Look for the truth, and then you'll find this. People, very famously, you've said this so much times in our conversations that we have here. But I do want to say this, and I think as a final point from me, is that how can you say, may Allah be pleased with the one and the ones who hurts the family of Rasulullah? The ones who
all of them
killed the family of Rasulullah, butchered the family of Rasulullah, pained the family of Rasulullah, hurt the family of Rasulullah. And it goes beyond.
May the ones who praise them be with them.
The problem is they think we're just emotionally attached to the Ahlulbayt. No, bro. Go read Hadith al-Kisa. Go look at how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam beautifully articulates what his Ahlulbayt means to him. And whilst I do have it on my phone, I'm going to mention a few lines where he says, referring to his family, very briefly, Hadith al-Kisa. It's the hadith on the cloak, the Imani cloak, where Rasulullah, Fatima al-Zahra, Imam Ali, and al-Hasan, and al-Hussein, and eventually Angel Jibra'il, they all go under this Kisa. He says, Allahumma inna ha'ulai ahl bayti. Oh Allah, these are the people of my household. Lahmuhum lahmi wa damuhum dami. Their flesh is my flesh, and their blood is my blood. Yu'limani ma yu'limuhum. Whoever hurts them, hurts me. وَيَحْزُنَنِي مَا يَحْزُنُهُمْ. Whoever displeases them, displeases me. أَنَا حَرْبٌ لِمَنْ حَارَبُهُمْ. I am at war with those who are at war with them. Okay? وَسِلْمٌ لِمَنْ سَالَمُهُمْ. I am at peace with those who are at peace with them. وَعَدُوٌ لِمَنْ عَادَاهُمْ. I am an enemy of their enemies.
Speaks for itself.
That's Rasulullah, not Ali Radhawi.
No more comments.
Not
needed.
Sayyid Ali Sistani. I don't know.
This is not
coming from the blessed lips, the tongue of Rasulullah.
No conjecture, no dispute. There's no question marks. Khalas. That's it. Point proven. Right. I mean, look, bro, this is inshallah, I really pray a blessed season for us. I hope everyone at home is going to have a blessed season. We use this as a inshallah catalyst for us to gain that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through, say, the Shuhada alayhi salam. And I'm looking forward to the next few episodes. I know it's going to be heartbreaking. I know we have some absolutely excellent podcasts lined up. Alhamdulillah for the blessing of being in London, bro, because we have so many amazing guests every Muharram, both local and travelers who are visiting London who we can bring on the podcast. And it's extremely difficult because we could do a podcast a day between now and Eid al-Zahra alayhi salam, and we could continue to do a different discussion on every day with a different guest, and it would still not do justice or suffice to the level of talking and analysis that this holy season warrants and deserves. So, you know, we're going to try and cram as much positive, proactive, educational content in as we can. But look, as we always say, we're open to your suggestions, your ideas, everyone at home. So please keep us informed in your du'as. Let us know who you want to see, what you want us to talk about. And yeah, over to you.
You've said it all, Ahmed. You've said it all.
Said too much.
There's nothing else for me to say apart from...
Now's a good time to subscribe.
I was just getting there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Yeah.
You know, give us a like, give us a follow. Share this content. That if you think it's beneficial, share it with someone that you think may find it beneficial to them as well. And I think together we can, inshallah, change the world and make the world a better place when it comes to the online world of Shia media. Ahsantum. All right, guys, we will see you next week. Take care. Please keep us in your du'as in the beginning of the holy nights. And inshallah, next week we'll continue our conversations. We'll see you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.